Are you looking for the ultimate Halloween candy dish? The one that puts every other porch on the block to shame. Today, we're going to take a look at how I designed and printed the ultimate Halloween candy dish for 2025. So, what makes the ultimate Halloween candy dish? First, fog. To me, nothing quite says Halloween like a spooky fog rolling in, blanketing the area. Second, it needs lights. Something to draw them in like moths to a flame. And last, it needs to be able to hold candy because it's not a candy dish if it can't hold candy. What do you think? Is there anything that I'm missing in the top 3 things for a candy dish? If you think so, put it in the comments below. Now it's time to come up with a design. I'm pretty new to making my own models, so I think that a jack-o'-lantern is the way to go. Pumpkins are easy enough to design and sculpt and are very symbolic of Halloween. They also are conveniently already shaped like a bulb, so that might be skewing me a bit. I can also leverage the openings in the jack-o'-lantern for the lights and fog. I can put the fog maker inside of it and we'll be all set. Let's start designing in Blender. I want it to fit on the build plate of the Core 1 because it has the higher Z volume. So I start by creating an empty of the print bed so I know how big I can make the object as I'm designing. Next, I need a sphere. And in this case, I want fewer segments than normal. I'm going to go with 32, and you'll see why in a moment. Now I'm going to scale it to fit my print bed and get a rough pumpkin-y shape. It will make things a lot easier to do it now. The top is going to be open for candy to go into, so I'm not going to spend too much time designing the top. I'm pretty happy with that. Next, I'm going to take every 4th segment and I'm going to scale it out. Then I'm going to move over 2 segments and again take every 4th and scale it a little bit less. This creates the variability that you can see in a real pumpkin, creating more depth. Now, make sure that you mostly like what you have as a base because after this step, it's going to be a lot harder to make a simple modification. And now we're going to subdivide. This will allow us to create more detail on our pumpkin. Obviously this is too rigid, so now we're going to move to the tab that scared me for the longest time, the Sculpt tab. Once there, I'm going to smooth out these sharp edges, and I could do that with a bevel, but I want to make it feel a little bit more organic, and nothing says organic like my poor drawing skills. Now that I'm happy with the overall pumpkin, I'm going to make a duplicate and scale it to 95% so I can hollow it out in a moment. But before we do that, we're going to add texture to the outside to make it more realistic. I add a displace modifier and then go to the texture properties and I'm going to find a pattern and size that I like. We'll apply the modifier so it's locked in and then we hollow it out with the duplicate we made earlier. Now it's time for the final steps. First, let's make a container to put the mist maker in. I'll link the one that I used in the description below. Check the specs on yours to determine the recommended amount of water above the top so you can make the container the appropriate size. Next, I measured out the diameter of the widest part of the wire and will make an opening in the back to run the wire through. And now, that candy dish. We'll make it as deep as we can while still leaving space for the mist maker. I'm going to boolean it out of the pumpkin and then we'll apply the modifier. Now I'm going to duplicate the cylinder and scale it down so I can hollow out the shape. But before we do that, I'm going to create a wider cylinder that is going to sit on top of the opening to hold it in place. I'm printing this in 2 separate pieces for a few reasons. First, we need to be able to get it out of the pumpkin to put the atomizer in and add water whenever we need to. Also, this will help us to print without supports.
To maximize my control of the jack-o'-lantern face easily, I created a PNG of what I wanted it to look like. If you don't want to use supports, it's important to be thoughtful of the design. If you want a toothy grin, something needs to be below the tooth. I went a bit spookier and connected the teeth so that there would be support. Then I took a cube and applied a displacement modifier and changed the texture to the PNG. Then adjusted the strength as needed, apply the modifier, and then we'll boolean this out. There we have it. Time to export, slice, and print. I tried a couple of different orange filaments and found that the Sunlu matte orange was the right color for me. I'll link in the description too. Now, the fun part, the time lapse.
And here it is, the ultimate 3D printed Halloween candy dish. Fog, lights, candy, and more personality than most Halloween decorations you'll find in stores. The STL is linked below if you want to make your own. And don't miss my next build as we take a stroll through a spooky graveyard. Make sure to subscribe so you can follow along, because this is just the start of the Print Alchemist.